Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Burn Studio and Creative. And if you haven't noticed already, besides musical instruments, I'm also a huge film camera fan. So today we're going to look through my entire film camera collection, and I'd love to hear in the comments which one you guys like the best. Throughout this video, I'm going to say dates that are pretty well associated with the cameras. Some of them are definite because of the serial numbers. Other ones I sort of guessed a little bit more. So if you know better, let me know in the comments. I'd love to always learn a little bit of something new. So let's get into it. All right, so my oldest camera, this is one that I picked up at a nearby flea market. This is a 1938 Voigtländer Brillant, or Brillant as it says on there. So this is a pseudo TLR camera. It is like, you know, it looks like that it would be your standard sort of TLR, like a Rolleiflex or something like that. It's not quite that. The viewing lens up top is just a simple ground glass. Like there's no focusing from the viewing lens. You do all of the focusing on the taking lens, which is actually a zone focus lens, or like it's just a metered focus lens. So it has from 1 to 8 meters and then infinity. To cock the shutter, you just can set the timing on this dial here like this. And let's say we want to do 1/100th of a second. You press up on this little lever here and drop it down there. This is a really cool camera. It's metal, but I believe also with some Bakelite in it as well. So it actually, for my oldest camera, is in amazing shape. The case is what's in the worst shape for this camera. When I first got it, I did have to clean it out a little bit. There was some haze in the lens. Luckily, I was able to clean that out fairly easily. I think this is a really fun camera to use if you're just taking some fun photos. The lens has actually really good glass in it. It takes very sharp photos, especially when I've taken stuff in black and white. If you nail the focus, which is the if, because with it being zone focus, if you nail the focus, it looks really good. Now for aperture, the aperture controls down below here. It goes from f4.5 up to f22. So the f4.5 makes it at least that when it comes to taking, you know, a photo with the zone focus, you have a little bit of forgiveness. It's not like something super shallow, but it's a fun little camera. All right, now my second oldest camera, this one was a find off eBay. I was looking for a folder, and so here we have a 1940-ish Agfa Billy record. And so this is a really cool camera. I love the like chrome sort of Art Deco styling that it has on here. It's really neat, and all you have to do is you flip out this and then you fold the camera out as such. And again, just what a beautiful sort of setup that camera has on it. It's really nice. Likewise, when I got this, there was some haze in it. I was able to clean that out. There is a missing piece on top of this viewfinder, which would be like a glass that you can look down into. So when I use this, I strangely end up using the Sport Finder more than anything. But what's interesting about this is that it is not your standard like 6x6 medium format. It is a 6x9. So it takes a very large negative. Now, one strange thing about my camera is I don't know if one of the elements is, you know, in backwards or something. Only the center. I'll put some pictures up here on screen of some of the pictures I've taken with this. I get some really strange results, but I do kind of like this camera for it. I think it might be that one of the elements got reversed somehow, maybe in me cleaning it or something like that. So I might someday take it apart and see, but I do sort of like the very dreamy, especially in black and white. Like if you get the subject in the center of the frame, you can get some really cool results with this. And you know, I love the look of it. It's just a really cool camera. All right, moving on to our third camera, we have a 1950 Argus C3, which you may also know as the Brick. This was my first ever film camera. This was my grandfather's camera, and this is what got me into film altogether. So likewise, this one had a little bit of crust and grime, and the viewfinder was really hazy. So I did some light work on it. It could probably stand to have a little bit more. If you listen to the shutter, I don't know what the like ringing sound is from the shutter. I have not used enough of these to know if that's typical. It works, which is what counts. In terms of shutter speeds, you have this dial here. You can go down to 1/10 of a second up to 1/300th of a second. Now, curiously, the viewfinders on these, the one is a rangefinder and the one is a viewfinder, as you might expect from like a very early Leica. But these are also coupled with the lens, so you can see up here you're able to focus by spinning this dial. It's a little stiff for a lot of these. I hear that's a common sort of issue. See, and the sort of knurled knob makes it a little tricky. But this is still a really cool camera. I absolutely love it. It's very sentimental for me, obviously, being my grandfather's camera. But I've gotten some awesome pictures with it, and I love it. I think it's cool. But it's no coincidence that they called it the Brick, because this thing is an absolute unit of a camera. When you look at it, like it is absolutely square. And like if you hit someone with this, it would probably hurt, because this is, you know, pretty substantial. Also made of Bakelite plastic and metal, but it's a pretty sturdy camera. Okay, next up we have a Canon III, which looks a lot like a Leica 3, and you would be right to say that. The Canon III is a copy of the Leica 3 that was made in occupied Japan. This one is made in 1951. It has a combined viewfinder and rangefinder, which is an excellent development. Something that's also interesting is for other lenses, there's like a magnification setting here too. So if you were going to use a 135 or an 85 lens on here, you're able to flip this switch and it actually flips out like little viewfinders inside of here. So it creates some magnification. I also like that for getting critical focus. I think it's really handy. So I recently got this camera serviced. I had sent it out to Oleg with OK Vintage Camera Repairs over in Slovakia. Oleg did a great job on this camera altogether. It is so crisp and clear now that just, it is in perfect shape. I love it. The Canon Serenar lens that's on this is an f1.9 50mm. The lens itself is very, very reminiscent of what you would expect on a Leica, like a Sumitar or any of those sorts of, like, not quite an Elmar. It looks, yeah, probably more like the Sumitar type lens. This was also in kind of bad shape. I got this for $40 at just an antique store. The lens was like riddled with fungus. I brought that to an actual camera repair shop, Authorized Camera Repairs over in Willow Grove, because it was just in bad shape. But then the slow speeds were jammed up. This camera like was having a lot of issues. So that's why I ended up sending it over to Oleg, because I wanted to invest in it as like something that I think would have a longer life ahead of it. And, you know, he did a great job and would highly recommend his work. And you'll see the work that he did again later for another camera. Also from 1951, we have a Zeiss IKON Contaflex, and this is such an interesting camera. If you've never used one, they are the strangest little thing, but also kind of brilliant, because look, first of all, it's so tiny. This is like maybe the tiniest camera I feel like I have that's not like a toy camera. But this is a very serious camera. It has a Tessar 2.8 45mm lens on the front. It's a fixed lens, so it's built into the camera, but it's still a very interesting camera all around. And so when you wind it on, then you're able to see through it as an SLR. You're able to see through the viewfinder once you've wound on, and then once you press the shutter, it closes. You're not able to see it blacks out. But what they did with this camera, which was interesting but also kind of a critical design flaw, is that they wanted to make it a little cheaper by putting in a leaf shutter in the front. So you have sort of two shutters going on in this camera, and if you look here in the back, you can see up to the front there we have our leaf shutter, but then as I wind on, this little trap door comes down. And so the point of the trap door there is to protect the film from being exposed, while the leaf shutter is now open, and so that you can see through the lens. Now there's a very sort of interesting and fraught choreography that happens after this. Once you press the shutter button, the leaf shutter closes, the trapdoor comes up, and then the leaf shutter opens and closes again. Mine gets kind of stuck sometimes. I've had some luck with this. I've also had some times where it honestly like will make even like sort of double exposures. But overall, it's very interesting, and the pictures you get from it are quite nice, all things considered. So let's see how it performs this time. If we can get a... So you heard there was kind of like a double like click there. That was the shutter opening and the trapdoor opening. So let's try one more time. Yeah. And again, I think it's working. I could probably stand to get this thing serviced, but I'm going to be honest, I paid like 20 bucks for it on eBay. So I think it's one of those things that while it works, it's nice. And I might consider looking into getting it fixed, but you could probably also just get another one for the same price. So overall, cool camera, great lens on it. I like it a lot, but it's not without its issues, and it comes and goes in terms of reliability. But, you know, what can you ask? This camera's pretty old. Next up we have what is a really, really nice camera. What was at the time probably the most expensive of any of the cameras that I have here, and that is an Exakta VX. So VX, and not saying Verax, means that this was a US export one. These cameras were made in Dresden back in the day. This one also being a 1951. So if you know anything about Exaktas, they're quite interesting cameras beyond the interchangeable lenses that you can put on them. They also have interchangeable finders. I have currently on this a waist level finder that pops up like that. And with that, you can also get a prism finder if you're looking for the more classic SLR experience. But what is fascinating about the Exaktas is that they wind on the left side. So if you are a lefty, rejoice. This camera is made for you. I'm not a lefty. But you know, it's easy enough to use that you can just wind it on nice and gently. Has a very satisfying click, and then when you're ready to release, it's a beautiful camera. These were the creme de la creme back in the day, and it's no surprise because they are just finely engineered things. But my understanding is that they also would have been used in other contexts. My understanding is that these were used in medical contexts, like you can get like microscope attachments that these could be mounted on and all kinds of other things. There's a film cutter in here that you can use to chop your film roll halfway through if you needed to like take this photo and go develop like one of the photos that you had taken because, I don't know, you're in a medical setting and the patient needs that or whatever. So things that you wouldn't really use today, but interesting and just an absolutely gorgeous camera. I think it's so cool. And yeah, I love it. You may have noticed that most of the cameras that I've had so far have been German or German derivatives, like the Canon III, which was a Leica clone. Now we come into the other sort of German derivative cameras, which are the Soviet cameras, because if you know anything about camera history, after Germany lost World War II, they had to give up a lot of their patents, and so that also included Leica and Zeiss, and so much of that material was taken, much of the patents and other things were taken and sort of made open source so that people could use them whenever they want. And one of the ways that that really started to come to fruition was the proliferation of Leica copies. So this is a Zorki 1. It is just your classic Barnack Leica. Like, this is a Leica 2 copy. It is overall a very simple camera. I have on this one a Fed, what is it? A Fed 50 3.5 collapsible lens, which is an Elmar at sight, but a Tessar under the hood, from my understanding. So just strange, but I guess they re-engineered it themselves. The sound of the shutter is just a like nice, sweet little click. I actually think this camera is super cool. I like that it's pocketable. that when you have the lens on, like this actually can fit in your pocket if you got like some nice cargo pants on or something like that. But I really adore this camera. I think it's cool. Now, similarly, I don't actually have one of the Fed ones because I sort of, if you have the Zorki one, it's pretty similar to the Fed one, and so I didn't necessarily bother with that. But I do have the Fed 2, which is a notable increase over the Zorki one sort of rangefinder. Number one is that you don't have to do the old Leica bottom loading. This is a back loading camera where you're able to take off the back plate and just load it as you might expect for a rangefinder. This camera comes with an Industar 26 lens, which is a 50mm f2.5 lens, or sorry, a 50mm f2.8 lens. Not a very popular lens in the rangefinder world, but it's actually given me some pretty nice results before. On my copy, it's a little crispy in the wind. This one could probably use a little bit of maintenance, but it has still a nice sort of click to it. This is also your Leica curtain type shutter. So this was a nice advancement over the previous Leica because with the combined viewfinder rangefinder and with the coupled lens as well, you were able to be a lot faster than you were with, and again, like I said, I love some of my older cameras, but I don't love the bottom loading. So this one with the back load is so nice. And this is like a nice just beater camera for me. Like I'll bring this anywhere. And the shutter speeds on this aren't anything fantastic. It's got from 1/25th up to 1/500th of a second on the shutter speed. It also has bulb if you want, but altogether this is just a nice solid camera and would use as like a nice everyday kind of film camera. All right, so I mentioned the work that Oleg did on my camera earlier for the Canon III, but there's one other camera that I sent him while I was doing that, and it's not every day I send things out to Slovakia, so I also sent him this, which is a Leningrad. Now this is a really cool camera. First of all, just look at the styling of this thing. You can see it's got just such a like, I don't even know, futuristic kind of thing. This is a 1958 Leningrad. When I got this one, it came with a Jupiter 12, which is a 35mm f2.8 lens. I love that. I love 35mm lenses. It's probably my favorite focal length. I use it for a ton of stuff. Now the curious thing is, when you're using a 35mm lens on a rangefinder, usually they're 50mm lens coupled, so you have to get like an external viewfinder so that you're able to see what you're doing. With this, there's actually a different sort of viewfinder that there are frame lines in it for 50, for 85, and for 135. And if you look at the whole sort of viewfinder, it actually is 35 as well. So this camera is able to really give you a whole bunch of different options. This was a very professional camera back in the day. And perhaps what is the most striking sort of feature for this camera is its shutter, because it is able to do several shots in a row with this wind-on sort of spring drum that it has here. So when you wind this up, I believe you're able to get like 10 shots per, if you do like it fully wound. I don't normally do fully wound, but you're able to literally go off and like if you were a press photographer back in the day, this would have been a big deal because you would have been able to get the shot. They actually, when they had Soviet craft sent up to space, there was a modified one of these that went along with it. So very historic camera, very cool camera. I know some people might have feelings about like the look of it, but it's just such an interesting camera. And I think it's awesome. Now, I will say, why did I send this to Oleg? Well, because as with all Soviet cameras, you need to wind on before you change the shutter speed. But I think what confused me was that because you're able to wind this, that just, when you press it, it fires, but when you release, it rewinds the shutter, right? So I changed the shutter speed without realizing that that actually broke it. And so I quickly broke the shutter and had to send it to Oleg to have him completely disassemble the camera and repair it. And again, he did a great job on that. But as I learned, and as you might not see on YouTube all the time, make sure to wind this. People I've seen say wind it 3 times, like minimum-ish. I even am a little more like cautious now before I go changing the shutter speed, because I just want to be sure and I don't want to break it again. And now we come to what was, I believe, my first Soviet camera. It's a Zorki 4. These cameras are awesome. I love these cameras. They are super clear through the rangefinder, very easy to focus, have a ton of different shutter speeds, and like it is a solid camera. Mine, which is funny, is like it has like the 50th anniversary of the USSR on the top as its decal, which, like, you know, in retrospect just is interesting. The only downside for these cameras, which is like kind of annoying, is the wind knob. You have to like kind of really dig in. It's not a lever wind or anything like that. The Zorki 4K introduced the lever wind, but still, it's great. Now, I had bought this one off eBay, and when I got it, I realized that the slow shutter speeds weren't working properly. Like, the shutter wouldn't completely close, and I came to find out that, you know, it was not in full working order. I was able to get a partial refund on it. I believe that's actually as a compensation, the seller had sent me the Fed 2. So, you know what, fair deal. I found out not too far away up in New York is Yuri Boguslavsky from Fedka Camera. Yuri helped me out with this one. He was able to help me find someone who could repair it, and they did an amazing job on it, and it is in absolutely stellar working order now. And right now I have on this a Jupiter 8 lens. When I got this, it was an Industar 50 lens, which is also a, you know, solid lens, but that's an f3.5 versus the Jupiter 8, which is an f2 50mm lens. So the Jupiter 8 is an awesome lens for what it costs. But as a sort of counterpart, let's say, to my Zorki 4, I have also my Fed 3. Now the Fed 3 has the lever wind, which my Zorki 4 does not. So this is also a really cool camera, a find that I got on eBay. Right now on this, it has an Industar 61 lens, which is a pretty sharp lens overall. The Industar 61 LD lens does have lanthanum in it, so it's like, you know, very, very minorly radioactive, but there's a little bit of yellowing I think my copy has on it. But still, overall, I actually quite like the photos that I get from this. Again, combined rangefinder, and it's also, the back opens. On this one, my self-timer also works too, which on my Zorki that doesn't work. I think my Leningrad, I'm not sure my self-timer works on that. I don't think it does. So there's not many that my self-timers are working on, but this one does. And I actually quite enjoy using that because then I can take some film selfies every now and again. But this is a great camera. I've brought this with me on several work trips because, like, it's not maybe the creme de la creme of all my cameras, but it does a really great job. And like, I'm not afraid to like bring this out with me and have something solid. So now we're coming into the SLR portion of our program, which, you know, was sort of, let's say, foreshadowed by the VX and by the Contaflex, but now we're going to come pretty more squarely into it. I don't even think we have any more, looking at my list, I don't think we have any more rangefinders. No, doesn't look like it. So we're all into the SLR. And first we're going to start with Praktica because I have a ton of Prakticas, so staying in the, you know, sort of Eastern Bloc cameras as I have. This is a Praktica LB. This was a find that I got on Goodwill. I was honestly, you know, somewhat interested in the LB body. Really what I wanted was the Meyer Optic Domaplan lens that they have on this, the 50mm f2.8. The Domaplan is known for being like a bubble bokeh lens, and so, you know, I said, why not? I got it for a good price. And it does work. The Prakticas always have such a sort of, I don't even know what to call it, like flabby shutter sound. It's not as tight as some of the other ones, like say like the VX or so. But the only problem with this one is that the film counter doesn't reset properly. So you kind of got to guess a little bit more on this. But I believe this is like a 1975. It's hard to say. I'm really only guessing based on what I could find online for this camera. Then also we come to another 1970s camera. I believe this is 1976. This is a Praktica LTL3. Cool camera. This thing looks awesome. It's got the Pentacon 1.8 on it, the 50mm f1.8. This is a great camera. I really like it. It's got a self-timer too, so, you know, for film selfies, this one is also an option. Now, in our like more toy camera sort of vein, we have the Smena 8M. This is just a silly little camera, but you can bring it along with you. It's very simple, zone focus camera, like no frills, but like talk about just a cute little thing. I look forward. I haven't gotten to use this yet. Also found this on Goodwill's website, so I'll be using this soon. Now for the big guns. Here we have the Salyut S, which is a Hasselblad clone. When I wind this puppy on, you'll be able to see that it is a Hasselblad 1600 clone. It goes up to 1000 on shutter speeds. You'll also see these cameras called the Kiev 88. That is a later version. The Salyut and the Salyut S, which I have here, were the earliest iterations. Like the Hasselblad, it has film backs that can be replaced, but just the craziest shutter in this thing. Not the most reliable all around. People have a lot of problems with them. I've not had a ton of problems with this one. I love it. I think it's really cool. Some of the pictures I've gotten with it have been awesome. And it's just a really fun camera. People are always asking you, you know, like, wow, what is that? And so it's a real eye catcher. Coming down to our last two cameras, we have what is, I believe, the most made camera of all time, the Zenit-E. This is a 1979 Zenit-E, which was made for the Olympics. This has a working timer as well, now that I think about it. But these are based on the Zorki rangefinder cameras, and they basically just slapped a mirror inside of them. So there's still a Leica cloth shutter in here, and you can still mess it up if you don't wind before you change your shutter speed. But you can hear just what an interesting shutter speed. It has a light meter, very simple uncoupled light meter. This is the Industar 52 lens on it. An interesting camera. I've had fun with it. And for a cheap SLR, it's got the look too. Like it's got the look of a like classic SLR, even a little sort of futuristic with that light meter. Kind of gives me like RoboCop vibes or something like that. My final camera is the Lubitel 166B, and this comes full circle actually, because the first camera, that Voigtländer Brillant, this was inspired by the Voigtländer. It is a TLR camera. This is not a pseudo TLR, however, because there's actually a coupled focusing knob on the top, so you're able to achieve focus. This is nothing special. These are made out of plastic. Yeah, and this is a 1982 model. I've seen other ones also for the 1980 Olympics, but it's got a T22 Lomo lens on it. It's a f4.5 75mm lens, but overall a fun camera. Great for just like if you're looking to get into medium format photography at a good price point. So guys, that's all the cameras that I have. I'm really interested to get your thoughts. Please tell me everything that you know about these cameras that maybe I didn't mention in the comments. And if you like this and if you want to see more film photography content, please give me a like. I'm just starting out here on YouTube, and I'd love to hear your thoughts and have you along for the journey. So that's all for today. This has been Burn Studio and Creative. We'll see you next time.